Hi, Prachi. Welcome to the podcast. Can you begin by telling a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Prachi, if that's surprising. And I'm a student for now. I think I'm a student for life, and that's something I believe myself. I think I like learning a lot, and that's one of the reasons I'm always, picking up projects after one project after the other. And when I was young, I read this quote, be the change you want to see in the world. And because I was a very naive young child, I took it very seriously. And since then, it's been kind of my motto in life that, if I want to see a change, I will be the one to start the momentum to bring that. And yeah, I finished my graduation recently, and I'll be preparing for my master's. One of the dreams of mine is to see a mental health revolution in the world, and that's why I'll be picking up neuroscience as my subject for masters, and then work around that.
I wish you all the very best for your masters. May you get into your dream college. Speaking about your work, you said that you are really interested in neurodiversity and the climate space as well. So, how does your work pan across all these areas?
I think for one, everything is so interconnected that you just can't escape one thing from the other. And because my work started with environmental awareness and wildlife conservation, it then suddenly came to climate action. And being I still consider myself a beginner in the field, but when I started out, I just could the one way that I started learning was to connect all that I knew earlier and the new things that I was learning. And then after climate change, I also got to work in the field of SRHR. So again, I got to see a lot of intersection of the topics. I got to see a lot of intersection in the issues that people face and how everything in general is just so interconnected. So I think whenever I look at, even when I think about feminism, I think about, how gender justice equals climate justice. And so I think it's just it's just in the way I think right now that I connect all the things that are happening in the world.
That's great. It's exactly as it should be. So, when you started your journey, what prompt you told me that you had that quote in your mind, but did you see anything happening around you that prompted you to take this path ahead? And if yes, how did you proceed about it? How did you gain more knowledge regarding it?
So climate change had been the hot topic, and especially being a young person who wanted to do something in the world, I started reading about it. I started getting to make myself familiar with what's the problem, what's happening here. And I just, to be honest, I just knew the general definition, the general terms that people throw when we talk about climate change. The biodiversity loss, the melting of glaciers, the rising temperatures. But I, at the moment, couldn't see anything more than that. And, that's why I always felt that there's this huge disconnection from the reality when we talk about climate change. And I started my journey in climate action through the Change Looms Fellowship. And I'm so grateful for that because, when I got to know about the fellowship, at that moment, I did not know much about climate change. I did not know much about sustainability. I would say I didn't know half the terms that I know right now, or even just the connection with the reality in general. So when I got into the Change News Fellowship, that's when the real motivation came. And even though the first few months of the fellowship were me sitting in the corner, hiding myself because I was so anxious and everything seemed so overwhelming all at once. But I think gradually I started to cope with it because there's just no other choice. You just have to cope with it.
That's amazing. From that starting point, from sitting in a corner to the girl that is here on the podcast today, how has the journey been?
I think the journey has been pretty self-awareing. and pretty revolutionary. I It's not just when we talk about a young person, especially a young woman uh, in climate action, or just working about sexual and reproductive health of people. And it's not just the society that she's working for, or the young people that are involved in this work, that it's not just the community or the society that they're working on, it's also on themselves. So from being a really timid, shy child who wouldn't bring up a point, even if it was the most amazingly sensible thing to say, she wouldn't. But I think today it's been about asking for the space that I need, asking for the mic if I want to, and then just, and also including other people who have things to say, to include them even more. So I think climate action journey for me has been a lot about climate and the people who are affected by it, but it has also been a lot about myself. So that's the beauty of it.
That's great. So, what was your biggest learning from it in respect to your own development or the development that you have witnessed in the climate sector?
It's really hard to pick up one learning, but recently, I think it's a very recent thought for me. I was very scared because I got to be in the Girl Up panel, so I was really scared about it, and it was visible anxiety for me. People could see it on my face because I was so scared. And but while being in that space, this sort of epiphany came to me that you're always a beginner at some point. And I think uh, that gave me a lot of hope, because I used to think that I'm a lot behind when I looked at people who were working in the field of climate action, people who were speaking at conferences, people who were being a part of UNDP. And I think that sort of gave me this very comforting feeling that and also I could pass that feeling to other young people, that you have to start somewhere, and it's important that you want to learn. It's important that you're willing to learn and you're eager to learn, but it's not a shameful or embarrassing thing that you don't know A to Z. So I think that's one of the most comforting and revolutionary learnings for me.
I think that's a personal takeaway for me as well, because being the typical characteristic of the youth, I also have that thought many times that I am behind. I don't know from what race, but I am behind. So, taking up on that, how can today's youth feel not so behind? What are the steps that they can take to get a head start or maybe just get involved in the climate action space?
Mm. This is exactly what I thought when I started my climate action journey, because there's a lot of talk around the problems that we are facing today. There's a lot of talk around the issues that are coming up right now, but there's comparatively much less talks around the solutions. And I've also find myself kind of ruminating on the same thing over and over again, and that's why being so much having so much eco anxiety. But I think the one understanding or one learning that I could gather from my experience is that it's important to be part of the spaces that people have co-created, where such conversations come up. Because uh, as an individual, we see only one part of the problem. We have just one perspective, sadly. And when we sit in a group, suppose there are 5 to 10 people. So maybe two of them will have the same story, but everyone will highlight a side of the problem. Everyone will highlight a very minuscule detail that will change your whole perspective and approach to the problem. So I think just coming together as a community, or being part of, especially as young people, it's very important to have those platforms and have these spaces, because a lot of the solutions come up that way. And even if it's not the most reasonable solution, people will be there to check the feasibility, and they'd be like, are you sure this would happen? So instead of just putting yourself in a corner and hiding f- from the fact that there's danger in the world, it's not going to help. So just even coming out with little with little initiatives. Like, last night I got this random idea in my head that I should start telling more people to carry their own bags and dabbas to the ration wali dukane, so that even if you need 1 kg of dal, you don't carry it in a polythene. You just you take something from home, or use such little things. And I think that's something that helps to move from that problem focused thinking to that solution focused thinking.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even I have seen more people get more woke about carrying your own water bottles and carrying steel equipments around so that they don't have to buy plastic. Uh, Taking on from that, if we speak about local communities, so since you have started in the climate space, what changes have you seen that can be implemented in your community as well, or something that you have noticed that, okay, fine, this is getting improvised or worsened accordingly?
I think to sort of add my contribution to the changes that I see, uh, I've seen people be more conscious of their actions around me. And that's just something that I like, because recently I'd like to share a story. My sister, like, we don't meet usually. My cousin sister, she lives in Mumbai. And we met recently, and she told me that she has told her friends and the people she works with about me. And, she has shown any of the articles or any of the videos that come up. And then she said they always joke around her. They say if they're eating something, they don't throw the plastic wrapper just on the street. They'd say, her sister's an environmentalist. You don't want to do it in front of her. And I think that sort of makes me realize that just for people to be more conscious around you, that's a compliment. So that's one of the changes that I see. And uh, because I am so passionate about taking care of my surroundings, taking care of the nature around me, I think more people feel like they're more responsible too. And they want to also make little changes in their behaviors. And I think that sort of brings a lot of optimism in me, because usually people want to do something but they just don't know where to start. So telling them that this is also a step, like turning off the light is where you start, but that's not where you stop. So I think, like, bringing that into the conversation, and then sort of letting the people notice how they can be a part of the solution.
Definitely, but I'm sure that must also come with its own set of complexities. So, just to make people understand that this is the thing, how do you approach them? How do you make it really accessible for them that this is the problem and this is how you can proceed so that there is a solution ahead?
When I started my project, this is what I wanted to work on. I wanted to make climate change more digestible, more graspable, more understandable for the people who were around me. Because when I started learning about climate change, when I started, getting to know all these terms, I thought, is it happening right now? Do we need to work right now? Is it a problem of the now? Because everything that's everything that's talked about when it comes to climate change is more based on the future. And I think that was one of the things that made me feel really disconnected from the problem. And I had to do, a lot to realize that the things that are happening with me daily are also part of the climate change. And it's not just glaciers, and it's not just forest fires. It's also the fact that I can't go out in the afternoon, so I'm missing college, because I can't possibly sit in the because it's so hot, and I can't sit in the classroom, so I just stay at home. So that is also one of the consequences of climate change. And with that understanding, I started the project, and I realized that there are young people who also feel the same way. And maybe they don't need to know about climate justice, maybe they don't need to know about mitigation. It's not going to help them in any way. But I think to sort through those topics, and to sort through the issues that are more relevant to them, and then probably come together and think of a solution. Because young I worked with schoolgoers, and because they had this huge passionate energy and this very goofiness around them, that they did understand a lot and they did come up with so much that that is very simple yet very effective.
That's a lesson for all the watchers that are listening to the podcast right now. But as you defined yourself as a student for life, so what keeps, I know you said about the organization that you started with and your motto for life, but what keeps that fire going? How because with not, with immediate action not in sight, how do you ensure that that fire is still there?
it's it's because of these spaces, I guess, because I remember myself mentioning that I felt more inspired after I came back from a climate talk, after I came back from attending a panel that was based on girls leading in climate action, and just in general meeting the people who are doing a lot, maybe not a lot more, but uh, who have been in the field for longer than I have been, and they have their own set of experiences. And I think that can be intimidating, but after that sort of fear lifts off, you just see so much inspiration coming at you. And because I have this passion for bringing a change, I need to be that person who is not who's not the one who scares other people, but who kind of inspires them too. So I think to have that longing for a good life for everyone, to have that longing to see a positive social impact, that kind of keeps me going. And then there are these platforms, there are these spaces, because as I said, you come together, you meet a lot of young people who have probably felt all the things that you are feeling right now, and then they offer you this consolation that it's okay, it happens, and they bring their own set of understandings and experiences, and that's just too inspiring.
Absolutely. That's really great. Being a relatively new advocate to the climate space, what is one thing that you think can be fundamentally implemented all across the world so that climate action in maybe 5 or 10 years is not that distant a reality?
Recently I've been realizing again that we have to move away from the jargon, and we have to make it more graspable. We have to tell people that it's happening in the present, and that's happening to them. Because okay, maybe there are people who are living in the coastal areas that are more affected by it. So maybe it's a they problem. But how do we move from that mentality and realize that no, it's all of us together? And because it's not just one person doing it. It's it's all of us who are contributing to it, to the problem. Then it should be all of us that who are contributing to the solution. And but to have that first, to have that understanding of what is happening, what is actually going on in the world, and how it is affecting our everyday life, and how it is affecting even those who aren't born right now. Because now, like, everybody knows about microplastics and how terrible it is. Uh, and then I think there comes the need to deal with the anxiety and the grief that comes with knowing all that is happening in the world, because we are a part of it. And like a cat closes her eyes every time she thinks she's in distress, so she thinks she's away from the world. So I think we need to stop closing our eyes and start addressing all the anxiety, all the grief, and all the denial that is happening to everyone. Because I say that we are all in the same boat, so why are we not holding hands? So that kind of a thing. And I think when we move past that fear and that uh, that feeling of hopelessness, or of being worthless in the problem, maybe because this thought comes that whatever I do won't make an immediate difference. Won't It would probably only show its effect after 10 years if I stay consistent. So when we move past that fear, uh, we kind of develop a mindset that is very adjusted to the problem. and that is all we need. We need people whose mindsets are adjusted to the ongoing issues. So that when I think about, if I want to bring about the topic of feminism, I notice it every day, I notice it in every single thing. So that's why I do the things that contribute to microfeminism. And maybe it's not me standing at a pedestal, maybe it's not me standing with a microphone, but it's me telling no to somebody. And that leads to a ripple effect. So I think in the similar way, we need to think of climate action as an everyday thing and not just something we come together for. And we sort of, develop that thinking, which makes solution just a part of it. If I think about, okay, it's too hot, what can I do for it? There are too many birds dying of dehydration. It was a terror for me because I am a like a nature lover. I love animals. It was a terror during the summers because I saw so many birds getting injured. But the constant thought process of mine was, okay, how do I deal with it? How do I deal with it? How do I deal with it? And I think that is how we will all come together, and we will stop seeing it as a part of the future.
Lastly, drawing up on the same point, how do you personally cope up with this climate anxiety that's always there? What are your coping mechanisms for it?
Because I already have anxiety. Like, I suffer with anxiety. So I think that just adds to it. And sometimes initially I wasn't able to recognize that what I was experiencing was eco anxiety, because I experience anxiety all the time. And I was like, what's the difference? But then I realized, okay, there is a huge difference. And because when you realize the difference between general anxiety, the anxiety you face when you are about to go speak up on a stage, and the eco anxiety, you sort of you change your approach towards what you're experiencing. So for me, the one thing that has helped me was talking to mentors and teachers and other people who have been a part of the climate action journey. And in general, I think now that I do talk a lot about the solution based thinking, and that's a comfort for me. Every time I feel like, a lot is building up, I sort of think, how can I make my contribution to it? And like recently, I was feeling a lot of anxiety about Diwali, because Diwali is coming and people are gonna enjoy, and people are not gonna think, and that was leading me to some distress. But I thought, why not talk to people about it? So I sat and I made some list of things that people can do this Diwali to make it more green, to make it more animal friendly, to make it more eco friendly. So I think, yeah, acting on it helps. And then again, uh, it's I think it's something that goes on for life. As a young person, especially as a young woman, you come with your own hard bound set of insecurities and anxieties. And when we think about taking action in climate change, that just amplifies. And a lot of times the thought comes, I think a part of eco anxiety is also the thought that, am I making a contribution, or am I skilled enough to be a part of this space? Am I skilled enough to be speaking about it right now? That was a question that came up a lot in my head. Do I know enough, or am I doing enough? But then it's just, you have to just keep showing up, and I think the question gets answered on its own. So you just keep showing up. You cry if you want to. You ask for help if you want to. And again, we are all in the same boat. So, why not hold hands? Why not come together?
I think this one bit of advice would be really close to my heart in the entire podcast. Of course, everything that you said was really insightful, but reiterating on what Prachi said, why not hold hands if we are in the same boat? So let's hold hands and work for climate action. And thanks a lot, Prachi.